All right, you're very welcome along. Welcome to Loser Town Population 2. The FAI and the IRFU have put together 24 of the worst sporting hours in the history of our little country. And with defeat comes recrimination, right? We're all bitter, we're all angry. We hate the Scots, we hate the Welsh, don't hate the Danes so much. We hate ourselves quite a lot. We hate the management of the IRFU. Martin O'Neill has kind of served as a human shield for the FAI over the last 24 hours or so, but slowly people are kind of going to go, hang on a second, what about our domestic league? And that's going to happen over the next couple of days, and then...
And rightly so.
Yeah, totally. And then over the next while, we're going to have a lot of debate about what the hell happens next.
I think it's a bit harsh to call it, you know, like Loser Town Population 2. I think we've
Population 5.5 million.
Yeah, well, I think we put ourselves in this position. I mean, nobody had to actually go and put together a Rugby World Cup bid. We could have easily got knocked out of the actual group of Wales, could have been playing Denmark. Well, Wales would have been in top seed, but you know what I mean. That Ireland may never have partook in two things that are kind of successes in themselves.
You're a better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all kind of guy.
Exactly. I mean, it was great being on this roller coaster of a World Cup bid, wasn't it?
Does it not feel like we're like locked in some kind of domestic abuse situation where our lovers, the Welsh and the Scots, are looking at us and going, yeah, we really like you, but actually these are the people we really like.
No,
we're just hanging around with you because like there are no South African and French people here, and actually they're way better looking and richer than you guys are.
I'm not sure was there ever a love there between the Welsh and the Scots anyway. I mean, you go back to the Troubles and they wouldn't travel to Ireland when Ireland had won the first couple of games and they were on course for the Grand Slam, and Wales and Scotland were like, no,
you might win a Grand Slam here.
Yeah, there's a war going on in Belfast, so we're not coming to Dublin.
My favourite analogy in all this was was it one of the Kerry or Cork delegates when Croke Park was being opened? He was talking about if you looked over your neighbour's fence and they had really long grass, there's no way that you would lend them your lawnmower to fix his grass. He's got to go and fix his own grass. I was like, why wouldn't you just give him your lawnmower and everybody feels a little bit better about life?
Yeah, that's...
Nice smell of fresh cut grass wafting in the breeze, and everybody's general area looks a bit better. But it seems the Welsh had the same idea as the dude with the opening Croke Park, no lawnmower buddy.
Yeah, it's...
And the Scots, obviously. The Scots too, they're not getting away with this. Mind you, us blaming the Scots and Welsh, right? Why didn't we just actually offer them something they wanted? Why don't we just say...
Such as?
Money, like some kind of future deal that like you're not supposed to do but everybody does? Like are we really to believe the French were not involved in any skullduggery in the background in any of the whole winning this World Cup bid?
Maybe. Well, yes, of course. Like the thing about it is that it's straight up, there's no skullduggery here. France straight up offered more money. They offered more capital than Ireland did. They offered more money than South Africa did.
Just hang on though, they offered more money to like World Rugby, right?
Yeah, but
that money's going to go to Samoa and Fiji, and the Scots and Welsh are like, I don't care about the money going to Scotland or to Fiji and Samoa. What I care about is like, are we going to play France in World Cup warm-ups? Oh, that's a great idea. And at Murrayfield, yoink.
Hold on a minute. Is there not a direct link between the Wales Rugby Union and World Rugby?
Yeah, so your man...
In Gareth Davies?
Yeah, okay. So
that's a direct link straight away between them. Of course it's in Wales' interest for more cash to be flowing into World Rugby, which France have offered, like, on top of the table, which we all know about. They don't need to do any skullduggery. All they need to do is promise more money for the eventual outcome.
So Gareth Davies is on the board of World Rugby, and their official process had this notion that actually South Africa was going to do it, so the Welsh felt duty-bound to give the South Africans the votes, right? Allegedly, that's the story. That's how that goes. The Scots just decided that they were giving the French the votes because, like, France better, we like you. It's nice. It's nice that personal relationship built up between the two.
Yeah, it is. Like, it probably will be.
But we're definitely giving ourselves a free pass, right? We're definitely giving the IRFU a free pass on the whole thing here. It's like, he finished third of three, lads. Spent £3.5 million of taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
There has to be some holding to account.
Well, I would say that if there's going to be a holding to account, then we learn from this and we bid again. But apparently it's not going to happen. It's going to be €3.5 million completely wasted.
Well,
it's not wasted if we bid again.
What if we bid again?
And lose again is what you're going to say.
You know, I mean, at what point do the Scots and the Welsh decide that we somehow understand their language?
Well, potentially we might offer more promised money. Because this money isn't guaranteed. France are saying that this will be the outcome. What is it? 375 million or something like that?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any guarantee of that. It's a verbal guarantee. It's kind of like Martin O'Neill's contract. It's like, this will happen.
The we'll see contract.
Exactly, yeah. Now, both things probably will occur, but still, like, you don't necessarily have to get the writing from the Minister for Finance or anything like that, or you don't have to divvy up who's going to pay what, Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland, where will the money come from.
Yeah.
There was an interesting one, though, because I don't think there's any question that France logistically probably will have a better World Cup than Ireland. And just looking at the international view towards this, what were they expecting from a World Cup in Ireland? I think Rob Kitson puts it very well in The Guardian today. He says the emotional favourite would have been Ireland. It's hardly sour grapes to suggest that they would have thrown a Rugby World Cup party so riotously entertaining it would have blown the doors off almost every other sporting event ever held. Even the most teetotal of supporters ordering a lemonade in a remote County Kerry pub would have been instantly welcomed into the bosom of the rugby family. So there we go.
Win or lose, we're on the booze.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even the teetotalers.
That's it. So I'm just, to be honest with you, completely chuffed that a man of Kitson's standing would say that we would have held a party so riotously entertaining that it would have blown every other sporting event ever off the park.
Yeah, not in any way hyperbole at all there. All right, if you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet us at Off The Ball. We're streaming live on Twitter. We're also streaming live, of course, on Facebook.com/Off The Ball. You can leave your comments there. Look, I've even got this kind of meta thing where I'm watching myself on my phone, watching myself on the screen, and then broadcasting to you through the camera. Being John Malkovich, is it a bit being? No, there was something else. Adaptation? Is adaptation? Anyway. Blank stares back.
Sure. Looking at your affinity for your phone, it's more like Her. Have you seen that movie?
No.
The one where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his phone.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Siri. Essentially, yeah. It's a good movie. You should watch it.
I got a lot of shit for being too much in love with my phone, so...
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's too close to the bone.
Her 2 starring Ger Gilroy.
We're also on YouTube for the very first time today, so youtube.com/Off The Ball. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like the video, and we'll automatically tell you when we're live in future, and loads more stuff coming live, of course, during the day whenever big breaking stories happen. And of course the news round on radio from News Talk is also available to you on various platforms now as well. And if you can't watch, if you happen to be driving or doing whatever it is, we also have an audio only stream available on offtheball.com. So there's no excuse for you not being able to subscribe to your favourite morning daily breakfast show, which streams both on the internet and we're the only one, so there's no excuse. Let's bring you through some of the newspapers. A little bit later on, Alan Quinlan's going to join us to talk about the Rugby World Cup bit and also Ireland, Fiji, and we'll look back a bit at Ireland, South Africa, and we're also going to hear from Port Mahony and Anthony Nash, both of them in big club games this weekend for Kanturk and Ballygunner in the Munster Club Hurling Senior and Intermediate Championships, and they joined us in studio, so we'll talk to them a little bit later on as well. But first, let's bring you through the newspapers, which, funnily enough, are obsessed with two main stories. Yeah,
Ireland counting the costs, says the back of the Irish Independent. It is a picture of the three boys involved in the 2023 World Cup bid. Failed 2023 bid cost IRFU and taxpayers a combined €3.25 million, says Rory O'Connor. And of course, the other one there is still the continuation of that hammering at the hands of Denmark. O'Neill stung by response to expensive Danish hammering. That's Dan MacDonald's story there. And collateral damage for GEA, who miss out on substantial cash boost. The IRFU will take the main hit from Ireland's failed attempt to host the World Cup. But the GEA faces collateral damage too, of course. That would have been the lending out of stadiums. We're going to get into the papers a little bit later on, but while we're on the Irish papers for the time being, do you want to hear what Neil Francis's take on the Bundy Aki situation is this week?
Yeah, so just to recap, my sense of it was, not having read every single word he'd written about this, not too impressed with the notion of having Bundy Aki playing for Ireland.
No, and he seems to be embracing this status as Panto villain right now. Look behind Bundy. Panto spotlight eclipses young stars, and it is one of the great passages of writing around the Bundy Aki situation today by Frano. The anthem starts and the camera pans in on Bundy's face. He writes about Saturday evening. He is not singing the anthem, but hold on, there are a lot of them not singing the anthem. Even fellas who know how to sing it. Boo, hiss. I'm not singing the anthem. Boo, hiss. Down with Frano. Why isn't Frano singing the anthem? Because he is too busy looking to see if Bundy is singing it. Ireland's call is played and all of the players sing it. Hurrah! The match starts in Coney. Westhazen gets barrelled by Bundy in the first bit of serious contact. Bravo, bravo. The South African is carried off on a stretcher. Not so good. The match ends and South Africa are emasculated. I do my analysis, and as I walk home, the catering vans outside are selling Bundy burgers and the pubs are selling Aki lager. So Bundy Aki has defeated the panto villain that is Neil Francis, and he is taking full ownership of that defeat.
He should have known that in the pantomime, the good guy always wins. The bad guy always ends up locked in stocks and having rotten tomatoes thrown at him. Let's move on to the Irish Times for the next of our newspapers here. Obviously, again, this is a photograph that I hadn't seen anywhere else. It is South African rugby fans devastated by the fact that they're not getting it. Bottom line is smaller nations need not apply. Really interesting piece from Gavin Cummiskey in the bottom there. 10 years on, Laporte lands the big prize for France. It's got some great detail on the career of Laporte and his role in all this, and just that general sense that Laporte was playing a game that nobody else was able to play, that maybe if what happened at the Olympic Games and Pat Hickey hadn't happened and Pat Hickey had been in the background helping Ireland, we might have understood exactly how to play that game. But Laporte, well, he was the genius mastermind behind the French bit, and Jerry Thorney also making that point that Ireland's separation from Scotland and Wales goes all the way back to, was it 1972 was the year of the Troubles that you were talking about a little bit earlier on, and how England actually did support us then, came over, got a standing ovation, played the game, took their beating, gave us 3 votes yesterday. As they tend to do in the Eurovision, they give us 10 or 12 points every time, regardless of how shit our song is. And, England likes Ireland. Not always reciprocated love.
No.
I, for one, am going to be supporting the English football team. I've decided at the World Cup. They're my team. Yeah,
it's great, all right, when it comes to the Eurovision and England come up first, and it's like, 12 points Ireland, and it comes to Ireland, and Nicky Byrne is like, it just comes out into preset, kind of 1 point for England before they even get to the 8, 10 and 12. We'll show you the back page of the Times Ireland edition. It's a picture of Brian O'Driscoll there, beaten by France. It says Rugby Chiefs World Cup humiliation. A couple of other stories there. Klopp taken to hospital, writes Paul Joyce. Jurgen Klopp suffered a health scare yesterday when he was admitted to hospital after feeling unwell. He was allowed to return home last night, though, after doctors carried out a series of tests that ruled out any serious problem. And Gary Doyle writing there, O'Neill riled by criticism. It seems to be the reaction to the reaction at this point, as Martin O'Neill reconfirmed his decision to sign a new contract as Ireland manager.
Yeah, so that O'Neill story is pretty interesting. It's in all the newspapers today, so obviously it's part of the briefing and the chat that's been going on. There was kind of an uncertainty when he was asked about his new contract. He was like, yeah, we've agreed that in principle. It's like it is an agreed deal. But then he kind of trailed off and said, we'll see. And it seems as if he's taking personally the level of criticism that's come, particularly in the last 24 hours. Gary Breen here yesterday morning was pretty scathing in just picking out the individual details which suggested to him that the team wasn't doing enough work. And then I think, was Keith Andrews live on Sky after the match and that got picked up the next day, or did he also speak yesterday? I don't know. And then Brian Kerr last night again saying that the team looked underprepared. We'll play that video a little bit later on, but like, O'Neill is also quoted in the middle of it as saying that if there's a change in what's required, i.e. play better football and bring young players through, then he can do that, no problems. But that's not his job, really. His job is to qualify for tournaments and make money for the senior international team and be that kind of top of the tree. Like, we do have a technical director, we do have a coaching department, we do have a bunch of people whose job it is to help foster a playing style and develop young talent, and maybe we shouldn't be conflating these two things.
Maybe not. Like, you're right. Nobody would be any bit happier if Martin O'Neill turns around and says, oh, well, we didn't beat Wales that night with that James McLean goal, but Callum O'Dowda started 5 competitive games and he's a lot more experienced going into the next campaign. I think international tournaments kind of have, in a weird way, even more immediacy than club football in terms of games per pressure, if that's kind of a way of describing it. As in, like, what have we played? 8 games in this campaign, and Martin O'Neill, 11 games? 12. And Martin O'Neill, I'm just trying to tot up, wait a minute, no, there's 6 teams in the group. So, like, 12 games in, and the pressure just mounts and mounts and mounts, obviously because of the amount of time there is between games. And, like, you're right, there is other elements here that are going to need to take some sort of responsibility. But over time, over these next couple of months before we get to the next competitive game, which some are claiming is the year after next, the pressure's going to mount. But it's not the year after next. I mean,
so there's no fixtures in 2018? Is there no competitive
Well, there's Nations
fixtures?
League,
yeah,
which
so
could lead...
Just explain the Nations League to us there. It's as internecine as the Kerry County Championship.
Yeah, it almost is. Like, we're in, obviously, the Division 2, for lack of a better phrase, for lack of me remembering what the actual term is.
No, it's Division 2.
Yeah, and there's going to be 3 teams in each little mini league, and the person who finishes top of those mini leagues will be eligible for a playoff. You will be eligible for the playoff if you don't automatically qualify from your qualifying group, which is in 2019.
Yeah.
You would like to think Ireland will qualify from their actual group in 2019 because it's the same thing. Top three kind of are in the mix.
Okay, so maybe 2018 becomes a year of playing your B team and getting a bunch of players through, or maybe it becomes a year where you find your first team again and play them in every game and finish top of that, or try and get promoted to the top tier of the Nations League, which who knows whether or not they've rescued international friendlies with this. It is definitely a little bit complicated until you actually see the stuff written down and see the groups. The draw is going to be made, I think, in December or January for that. So at that point,
December here in Dublin.
Yeah, all right, okay. There you go. Kieran Byrne wants to know, were we fully prepared? It was like a college student presenting a presentation that he'd done the night before and convincing himself it was up to scratch. That's not fair. They actually did a really good presentation and they did loads of work on it. It's just, I think they underestimated the politics involved and didn't try enough to get the Scots and Welsh on board. There is a possibility that no matter what happens, Scots and Welsh are just going to tell them, screw you, we don't want you to succeed, because, you know, they have that small nation mentality.
We'll bring you the front page of the Irish Examiner sports section. It brings you the Sporting Stock Exchange with a man called Ireland with his number ? On the back of his jersey. End of the world, it says. World Cup elimination on top of World Cup elimination, says the sub-headline. You've also got Liam Brady there saying Martin O'Neill might be staying on, but Irish football needs Brian Kerr.
Yeah, okay, so the Herald I have here for you. This is, I got it wrong, but under fire, O'Neill pledges to add fresh blood to battered Irish squad. There's loads more of those Martin O'Neill headlines. The best one is Smarting O'Neill, I think. Is it really the best one? Yeah, you got to give him a bit of credit for this today. It's Smarting O'Neill, and that is on the back of the Irish Sun.
Fresh Mart is this one. O'Neill to stay on for a rebuilding job after playoff heartbreak, and then just kind of the last one, the Racing Post counting costs, and a picture of Shane Long right there. There's also a picture of Ben Roethlisberger on the back of the Racing Post. Men of Steel ahead of Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger cost me my number 1 seed in fantasy football this week after I decided to play him instead of Kirk Cousins. But remember the golden rule, nobody cares about my fantasy football team, so that's all I'll say about it.
Well, I don't know, we could definitely spend 10 or 15 minutes talking fantasy NFL. If anybody wants it, just let us know in the comments and we'll definitely do some more NFL for you, because I'd happily do an hour and a half every morning. Right, let's go back to the rugby. We're going to speak with Alan Quinlan in just a minute to get his thoughts on what the hell went wrong, but also a bit about what went right for Ireland against South Africa, because ultimately, if we're not having a World Cup here, we may as well concentrate on winning the World Cup on the pitch. Dick Spring, part of the organising committee from an Irish perspective, very much disappointed with the votes that went against Ireland's bid to host 2023.
Are you still unhappy with the point system in that process?
Yeah, we'd have to be, in terms of there were a number of issues that we felt we didn't get deservedly recognised, and I think that's one we'll have to bear up with for foreseeable future.
And how disappointed are you that you didn't get the backing of some of the home nations?
Personally, I am extremely disappointed. I would have thought that there was room for solidarity between the home nations given the history of the game, and I think extremely disappointing.
Yeah, so Dick Spring there, I think capturing the mood of the organising committee, and fair enough, like I think the volunteers come out of it really well, but the top brass of the IRFU are going to have to answer a lot of very difficult questions. The fact that Leo Varadkar was so heavily personally invested in it from the get-go, I think probably means that there won't be too much of official political repercussions unless the opposition ramp it up, and they're not really going to do it, because it's difficult, it's a bit boring, and there's no easy wins on it.
Well, what I would say is that you look at South Africa 95 and they had the thrust of Nelson Mandela behind that. Ireland probably kind of looked at that and they were like, right, let's get all our big figures behind this as well. Will they be able to get as much investment kind of personnel wise for another World Cup bid? I'm not so sure they will. Yeah. They might be able to get Liam Neeson to do another voiceover, but that's potentially about it.
Yeah, okay. Let's get some reaction from Brian O'Driscoll. Here he is talking to Neil Tracy for offtheball.com.
Been said by other members of the Oversight Board in the last few minutes, it was particularly disappointing not to get the votes you expected from your Celtic neighbours.
Yeah, well, we can't be certain, but the feeling is, well, Scotland set out their stall early saying that they were going to go with the money, whoever was offering the most money, and then Wales, more recently felt as though they had to sway with Gareth Davis, who sits on a Rugby World Cup board, with their decision of South Africa. So to lose all likelihood to lose both of them, it's pretty disappointing. But we got the support of England, and we definitely appreciate that. But England alone weren't ever going to get us across the line.
And what was the gut feeling just before they were actually announcing who won the rights to host it?
I wasn't overly expectant, but you live in hope, don't you? And when there's one name written down on a piece of paper and it's turned over, until that moment, there's always a chance. I feel like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber saying, there's always a chance, but 1 in a million. We were a bit better than 1 in a million, but it was even the celebrations, I thought, of France were pretty contained. Maybe they felt as though they were the front runners over the course of the last couple of weeks.
And finally, for me, what kind of a tournament can we expect from France? Are they worthy hosts now?
Listen, they've done a good job in the past. They've held World Cup, football World Cups, football European Cups. So it's not that long ago that they had the Rugby World Cup in 2007. We don't have great memories of that, but you can be sure that 2023 will be will give us better memories from our own perspective, and they'll do a top quality job as they've done in the past. So it's a shame from our perspective. Also, I'm sure South Africa are bitterly disappointed being the front runners and comfortably finishing second, but we accept the result and you get on with it.
It's Brian O'Driscoll speaking with Neil Tracy of OffTheBall.com. Yesterday, Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger.
We knew this was coming, I think, right? Did we know that we were getting screwed by the Scots and the Welsh? Is that why people are so pissed off this morning?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest disappointment. Your neighbours, when you're living at home, you rely on your neighbours, don't you? And I think it's very disappointing. That's the first kind of thoughts I got. A little bit of anger over that, because you think if they were trying to host a tournament, they'd be relying on us to try and support them, particularly because it's so close. And you think there would be some benefit for them with people possibly coming from the Southern Hemisphere, staying in Scotland, staying in Wales, going over and back. So it's really disappointing, I think. And they were probably the 6 votes that would have swayed it for us, because we got 8. If you put Scotland and Wales, if we got the 2 of them, that brings us to 14 in round 1, which would have put us into the round 2, and then we would have got possibly the South African
or enough anyway.
We would have got enough then maybe to compete. But look, France obviously went out and lobbied very well in the last couple of weeks. When I say the word lobbied, I'd be very careful what I say. But
should we not have, is that not the rules of the game, right? Were we too naive? Were we too above board, not thinking that the French were actually going to go and make significant offers of investment or whatever the soft lobbying is, however they've done it?
I think this whole process is a joke, Ger. I think you're talking about FIFA and Qatar and the way that whole thing is played out, and possibly Russia as well, and bribes. And we look back to South Africa in 2010, that there was money handed over and a lot of promises made. This is something similar, because it's horse trading for a tournament. They're all lobbying with each other. They're all promising fixtures and warm-up fixtures for World Cups and World Cups ahead. And that generates funds. And who knows what France, the rumour was that France were offering TV rights to a lot of the countries, saying, look, you can have our free French rugby.
And World Rugby had to step in and say, you can't do all that.
Yeah. And if that's getting out and about, imagine the possibility of other stuff that's going on.
And
with blank checks landing on people's tables
The Irish and South Africa were both kind of going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What is this? Why did World Rugby come and warn it? And then eventually they thought that was something to do with the TV rights. Now, we're not suggesting there's anything illegal happening. I would say that there isn't anything illegal happening here. I'd say this is just the kind of promise of, we will help support you to grow the game, and we can do that in a way.
They're not breaking any rules and regulations by promising some help around their development in some of the, we'll say, for example, the Asia countries, where we believe France got the vote there, that they could very easily go and say, look, we'll fund some of your structures or your programs, and we'll help you, and we'll send some players. And
so why didn't we do that? Why were we not?
We did. I think we did, but we probably didn't have the ability to go, well, we can give you some money as well towards your programs. There's nothing illegal in it. It's morally probably wrong when you think you're in the middle of a process of voting for World Cup. I just don't think we had the financial might to compete against France. They were the biggest danger. When the technical review came out 2 weeks ago, speaking to a lot of people who had their finger on the pulse, they kept saying, beware of France, because, and France obviously went out in the last 2 weeks and had they offered more money initially in the bid, the participation fee, and they're talking about 17,000 jobs, 1 billion to the economy. They're just a massive country who have the money, and we probably don't have that ability to do that. But I think it's a farce, Ger, because what's the point in smaller nations ever competing for any of these tournaments again? It's a waste of time. Just give it to the big countries. Forget this whole process of the romanticism around a smaller country getting it.
Well, I actually think there is something in that, because you go to a soccer World Cup, and because it's the soccer World Cup and 40,000 fans from every country travel there, it takes over the country. But the Rugby World Cup is something much smaller. There's 12 countries really who send fans in any great numbers, and it's not even the same. So you could actually legitimately take over a country for 3 or 4 weeks, and it would be a proper rugby party. That's what rugby should be doing, because then it would actually become this great thing. When France hosted, it's going to be all over France. There'll be a small coterie of fans in Toulon. There'll be 8 games in Paris. It's very diverse, and
they love their rugby in France, and I was involved in 2007, and it was a good Rugby World Cup. It's pretty easy to get around with the TGV.
It doesn't take over the country, though. There's no sense of actually...
It doesn't. It does get lost a little bit, but they have the money and the infrastructure is quite good there. So I think my point is, one of the things that we got knocked down on was experience of hosting a major tournament. Well, we'll never have experience if we don't get the opportunity.
Yeah, it's 22.
It's not really in World Rugby's interest to give a country experience. That's not what it's there for. It's there to put on a brilliant sporting tournament.
It is important that they grow the game. They're trying to make it, they're up against, soccer's a global game and there's massive money in it. And they're definitely trying to expand rugby and get into different markets. So what does it say to those other markets that, look, we want you to get involved in rugby, we want to spend money, we want to expand the game there, but we'll never give a tournament there. It'll never happen again. They look at Japan as a mistake now, because they're not going to make money out of Japan. The same interest is not going to be there, the same excitement, the same number of fans won't travel there. I think if it happened in Ireland, it would have been an incredible scenario. We got knocked in the stadiums, and this is a very valid point that I've made as well. If we were going to be knocked in stadiums, why did let us go through the process? Why let us get to this point? Tell us 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Lads, you don't
look,
have stadiums.
If your stadiums are ready, come back to us when your stadiums are ready. We wouldn't have been in a position to do that. We wouldn't have just done up all the stadiums, GAA stadiums and stuff like that around the country with a potential possibility beforehand. If we got Rugby World Cup 2023, we would have been able to fund them and put it together.
But just going back to the report for a moment, that just seems like the most pointless thing ever, because obviously the result doesn't go with the report, but also the aim of the report is to try and influence men in suits and their decisions. That was never going to happen.
Well, Owen, it's proved it's a farce, because South Africa were the recommended bid. They now have egg in their face, World Rugby, and they're saying, well, the process was fair. How fair is a secret ballot? It gives people the opportunity to trade votes and make promises. So effectively, it is corruption. It is corrupt, and it's not transparent. I actually think, in the opposite, they should go with the technical review and have no vote. So bringing in have a situation where World Rugby look at the potential bidders, like they did a number of weeks ago. Bring in external people, sit down in the room, and say, "Here's your winner." End of story.
Yeah.
This voting scenario then. It devalues it, and that's what's happened. They could have
just had the vote. They could have just had the vote 5 years ago and gone, lads, who's going to get it? South Africa, France, Ireland. Sorry, Ireland, not your turn. You lads, yeah, okay, France get it. And
it takes away that possibility of that romanticism and that opportunity for a new venue, a new place, growing the game, because it's about money, and money is won out in the end. So look, we've got to accept that. People, and it frustrates me to say, well, our bid wasn't good enough, and it was a stupid bid, and we were never going to get it. The recommendation says we could have hosted a wonderful World Cup here, and we were just beaten by
politics.
Two countries who have hosted major tournaments, have all the stadiums and stuff like that. So I think it was a great effort.
Is it naive to think though, like you mentioned the Wales and Scotland thing, how that could have swung the entire thing in our favour?
Absolutely.
To think that we could just get on their side for another World Cup bid and
if you think about the Pro 14 as well, what does it say about the Pro 14 that our neighbours didn't vote for us?
Italy didn't vote for us either.
Italy didn't as well, and Irish rugby's done a lot for Italy, Ger. A lot of support for Italy.
I'd say Italy probably feels like their best chance is to get into France though and get a club in the top 14.
Probably, yeah. But I think this is going to linger on a bit. It's going to create a little bit of tension in the Pro 14 and amongst the home unions. I think England are probably our perceived biggest enemies. Supported us, and that was a massive statement. They supported us, but we only got 8 votes, and I think if we'd got Scotland, Wales and Italy, we'd be having a World Cup here in 2023. So it's massive disappointment.
It's not good when your neighbours don't like you.
Yeah, well, they're saying, well, Scotland, and then we're kind of saying we're whining about it, but you would expect your neighbours to support you, wouldn't you? If you had a crisis at home in your house and you knocked on the door either side of you, you'd be hoping that they wouldn't close the door in your face. So look, it's more to it than that. Obviously, Gerald Davies is on World Rugby and he's, so Wales supported him.
Yeah, I mean, they could have given 2 votes. They could have split their vote if they wanted to and said, actually, you know what, we've decided that you're getting a vote because actually it would be really good for the Pro 14 to show that one of our nations can host it, and maybe Wales can get it sometime, or maybe a joint Welsh-Scot bid. I don't know. It definitely doesn't suggest that the Pro 14 is on a very safe footing.
Yeah, and I think it's people have asked, will we go for 2027? Waste of time. Yeah, I think now, what is the point? Now, you can argue South Africa have gone for the last 3.
Yeah.
And how they're feeling. I think they should be more peeved off than anyone because they were the recommended bid. They've massive issues in the country. Same as we've economic problems here and different social problems, and every country has them. But being the recommended bid, that gave them a real shot in the arm 2 weeks ago, and then to have it taken away at the last minute was hugely disappointing.
We don't get a vote after we get knocked out, do we? It's like it's only the people.
We don't get a vote, no. But I think our votes would have transferred on to France because obviously, anyone who voted kind of around here for England probably voted for France because again there'll be a benefit to their economy as well.
Yeah, I think they did.
All right, let's hear what Philip Brown, the chief executive of the IRFU, had to say in the aftermath of Ireland's failed bid.
It's obviously hindsight and all that, but is there anything looking back that you might have done differently? No regrets or anything with the bid?
No, I think when we set out on this this journey, for want of a better term, we said, regardless of what the result is, we want to be able to wake up the day after, look ourselves in the mirror and said we did absolutely everything we could, and I'm quite happy that we did absolutely everything we could.
And it's been worth bidding for, regardless of the result.
It has. It's been worth bidding for. The whole process has been good for a number of reasons. Probably one of the greatest reasons, actually, is to see the governments, both North and South, and the public service in Northern Ireland and indeed in the Republic of Ireland, working together on a project that has no agenda other than an agenda they all support, and that in itself is very rewarding.
Given the low number of votes, especially from Ireland's neighbours, does that have any impact on the relationship with various governing bodies?
Listen, we were very disappointed that Scotland and Wales didn't support us. Very disappointed indeed. I think Scotland said that they were consistent in that they said they were going to vote for the bid that produced the greatest amount of money. And Gareth Davies obviously was part of the evaluation process, and I think the Welsh Union felt duty bound and honour bound to support Gareth. But that damaged us significantly. Is it disappointing to hear that a country bid and was pretty clear about bidding specifically because of the money? Listen, every union has its own objectives and its own strategies, and that was Scotland's.
All right. Six Nations on and off the pitch is going to be pretty interesting next year. Let's move on to stuff on the pitch because we annihilated South Africa last week and everyone was like, yeah, that's great. And then the dust settles a bit and you go, geez, South Africa were terrible.
They were horrendous. There was a time when we feared South Africans, the South African team, I think, and you've got to respect them as well. They have a lot of issues. They have over 300 players playing overseas, so it's very difficult to be constantly losing your best players. Perfect example was Jan Serfontein. He plays in the centre in the 3 tests that they beat France at home over the summer. He decides, I'm going to Montpellier. And do you mind if you release me from the November tour? I've got to go over and sign up with my new club and get ready there. And they agreed to it because they've no choice.
Yeah.
So he was starting to have a really good partnership with Jesse Creel in the centre. Dialande played last Saturday for South Africa, the 12 for South Africa. He was horrendous. There was one stage they had a 4-on-1-2, probably Irish guys, bit of scramble defence, and he hacks it. A horrendous kick. Andrew Conway catches it and lamps it up the field. And I just thought, that's it. That's all they've got. Because they have a big, powerful pack of forwards and a very impressive pack of forwards, and potentially could be a very strong unit for a number of years. But again, they're 9 and 10, horrendous. Cronje, the Lions, he plays Super Rugby for the Lions, totally different game, but his pass is horrendous. And Yanshi's then the out half. So you've had 9, 10, 12 who are very, very poor. And that had, no matter how dominant or how much parity you get up front, you just can't play. So I think Joe Schmidt will realise that. A lot of the players will realise that afterwards. But it looked like a very solid, unified Irish group without setting the world on fire, because we've got to remember, Ger, 69 minutes, it was 17-3.
Yeah.
Conway got an opportunistic try and a bit of bad discipline from them, so we weren't kind of running away with it, but they never troubled us, which was the concern for them.
You mentioned not setting the world alight there. Like, it seems we broke them down just by doing the basics very, very well. And I'm just wondering, how well prepared does the opposition have to be to stop an Ireland team that is doing the basics perfectly? Because it seems they're perfectly aware of what the game plan is, but they're powerless to stop it.
Yeah, and it's the minute things that they're powerless to stop, because Ireland are so efficient under Joe Schmidt around the breakdown, around their carries, around their presentation, around their support lines that they run. The detail there, and we hear this attention to detail all the time. They're just really excellent at knowing their role, affecting each breakdown, affecting each phase of play. And that's the emphasis he puts on. And no matter how much you know that, sometimes it's a 50-50 battle. You look at Rhys Ruddock's try. He's running straight at Francois Lowe. It's very quick, and he just puts a little bit of footwork on, and he's in the space. Try. Francois Lowe, and for all the world you think he's going to put in a big impact tackle, and he was one of the South Africans that I thought, he's an honest, he's hard-working, he gives it his all, he plays well for Bath every week in the English Premiership. Just a little minute detail from Ruddock. That just doesn't happen. That's practice. That's trying to find a space all the time in the tight contact areas. James Ryan makes a tackle a carry at one stage. Etzebeth and the Jaeger, it looks like he's going to get smashed. He just puts on that bit of footwork again, and he gets through. And the result from that is quick play.
Yeah.
Presentation of the ball, quick play. I watched Tyke Furlong, I was up high, I was doing the commentary, and I watched Tyke Furlong a couple of times for a tight head prop. The speed in which he enters the ruck, potential turnover, boom, clean out, win the ball, one man, Keane Healy's clean outs. So these guys now, they're doing the basics really well. They're doing it better than most. Where do we fall down? Sometimes we play a better team, more powerful team, a team who holds on to the ball really well and does a lot of that good stuff. England do it well under Eddie Jones. So, good coaching at that level has made us very, very hard to beat. And I think we've unearthed some good young players as well now.
The Six Nations campaign last year, it wasn't great, but got a bit of a free pass at the end. This year, there's much more pressure on the Six Nations campaign. It feels to me that we legitimately have to be contending going to that final game on Paddy's weekend.
Yeah, we got a pass, I think, last year, and we're not good chasing a game. And the reasons for that is we're not hugely expansive. We don't throw the ball around willy-nilly. There's a big emphasis on protecting the ball and being secure. And I know there's been a lot said about, not taking risks. I don't buy into that fully. I think it's been more efficient rather than being more expansive at times. And getting the scoreboard ticking over. We're a very hard team to claw back against. So we got caught a little bit in the Six Nations, against the obviously we got caught in the hop in Scotland when we had an horrendous start, came back and then lost it again, and the Welsh game. So you're going away to England and France this year. You've got to pick up one win there and win your home games, and 4 wins, then you're in the mix. So I think there is more pressure. There is a set case now of, particularly when the South Africa game, we're creating a lot of depth within the squad.
I think that's really what this November is about, because the Fiji game this week, like, unless we lose that game, which you can't really see happening at the moment, there's not a whole heap now with South Africa being so poor. And let's see what Argentina are like. I don't expect them to be brilliant given their championship performances. So really, this is just about creating depth this November.
Absolutely, I think first and foremost you want to try and you look at any fixtures in November, and I've been involved in a few, and always the messages have been, well, we want to win the games first. That's the pressure coming from the RFU, because the international team fund the game here in Ireland. You want to win, so then the coaches have a bit of room for manoeuvre. What do the public want? What do they want first? What does the coach want around development? And of course, always the middle game is the weaker one, whether it's Canada, Georgia, Fiji, whatever, they're perceived weaker team, and that's their time for big manoeuvring. So for Fiji this week, I think he'll make wholesale changes, probably a new 15.
You'd pick the team there, had you?
Yeah, look, it was... Jack McGrath obviously comes back in. Then you've got James Tracy or Rob Herring. I think James Tracy will probably start. John Ryan, Andrew Porter could play tight head.
That'd be amazing, right?
Yeah, it's some kind of turnaround from being a loose head for the under-20s a couple of years ago to now being a tight head. He's a really powerful guy.
Does that make him rich in like the last 5 or 6 years of his career?
Very rich. Well, having that versatility to be able to do both, tight head is the one. That's where the ching-ching is, Ger, the tight head, because they're so vital. Then you've got James Ryan, maybe Kieran Treadwell. I think he'll definitely start Ultan Delan. It just depends whether he goes Treadwell or James Ryan.
I saw somebody in the paper today saying that James Ryan looks like a guy at the start of a 100 cap test career. I'm not sure, do you agree with that?
I do. I think he's... The key for any of these young guys coming through is the injuries. Staying, minding the bodies. You hear O'Connell, you hear Earls, you hear these guys towards the end of their career, how they manage themselves. So if you can translate that kind of latter part of it and learn from some of those experienced guys to get it right now as a 21-year-old, getting the rehab done, doing the small little stuff rather than killing themselves with big weights or all this stuff, that's been the key for him.
O'Connell talked about in the early stage of his career, he would get himself to this ferocious emotional pitch, and he would go out and kill people in the first 20-25 minutes of games, and he felt that actually had an impact on his injury profile, that he got too intense, that actually later in his career when he found a bit of calm, like obviously still the manic aggression was part of it, but like it's hard for a 20-year-old not to go, I've got to go out there and kill somebody to get noticed.
Yeah, it's having that balance right and looking after your body and your mind, Ger, because the talent is there. So how do you kind of maximise that talent? How do you manage that talent from week to week? Being in the Irish system will help James Ryan because he'll get breaks, he'll get the rehab, he'll be looked after right. And I think he's a fantastic future ahead of him. He's a really, really exciting player. I first saw him a couple of years ago when I worked for the under-20s, one of the under-20s games, and I just thought, geez, this guy's work rate, his tackle, his ability to reload, get back up, make another tackle, and suddenly he's making 3 carries. Then I'm thinking, where does he get the energy from? And he has the skill set as well, so a very intelligent player.
And a bit of the dog in him as well.
He has, he's aggressive, so it's just managing himself well. So of course he can go on and win 100 caps if he gets a bit of luck and managing himself right. And just in the background end, it could be any kind of a combination here. Will he play Reece Ruddock will probably be there. Jack Conan will start at 8. Dan Levy, of course, Tommy O'Donnell are out. Jordy Murphy comes back in. So does he play Jordy Murphy at 7? Probably will. Kieran Marmion, Keighley or Carberry. I'm not sure what he will do. Does he kind of protect Carberry a little bit, or does he stick him straight in as a 10?
Well, you're saying that his future is at 10, Carberry, so this is the perfect game, is it not, for him to play there?
His future is wherever he wants it to be, because I think he's so talented. He's a Borden Barrett type player that if he's available, he's playing. Yeah. Maybe he's not guaranteed that he's playing every time now for Ireland, but pretty soon he will be at that kind of level. So he either plays Keighley and puts Joey Carberry full back, where he's been familiar with this year, or plays plays Carberry at 10.
I think Richie Murphy said during the week that they see him as a 10. They don't see him as a fullback.
Yeah, well, I think he's the backup 10.
Yeah,
so
if that's the case,
he'd probably play 10 here.
Given the game time that he's not going to get at Leinster,
and he'd probably take him off at some stage because he's definitely going to be involved next week against Argentina. So he'd bring Ian Keatley on. Then you've the only guarantees I can see are McCluskey and Farrell will play 10, 12 and 13 here, and then there's a bit of a mixture of Carney, Sweetenham, Adam Byrne in the back three. So I think there'll be 14, 15 changes in the team.
And actually it's a pretty exciting team.
It's a good team, it's a good team. You won't, I think Fiji have incredible talent, individual talent. It's just the collective coming together. You think in Nakarawa, the Racing player now, we used to play with Glasgow, he's an incredible talent. So he scored a try from against Italy last week. They've unbelievable players in their back line. So it just, I think that's a team that Joe will back to go out and do the job. For
an inexperienced team like that Ireland team that you've named, going up against a team like Fiji who are unstructured is actually a really good test for them, because it's very easy to get sucked into they're throwing the ball around, there's loads of holes everywhere, let's just throw the ball around and try and find the holes. But actually what Joe Schmidt will want is, we're going to maul, we're going to set up the rucks, we're going to go through the phases, we need to be structured in the face
and that's where they'll attack him. They'll attack him at breakdown, they'll attack him at set piece, and they'll try and attack him with relentless pressure, building phases and looking for opportunities there where they outnumber them, and their fitness tells and their work rate tells. So I think any player going out in that field won't be allowed buy into this, well, it's a game of sevens and let's throw the ball around, and he'll put massive pressure and he'll judge these guys individually. Every player will get their feedback, their game will be broke down from about what they did right, wrong, all the way through. So even though it looks like, well, it's a bit of a blasé affair and it'll be a good game to watch and all that, there'll be a lot of pressure on these guys to deliver.
That's some back row for a second string back row, isn't it? Like, our options there, are they as good as you've ever seen in terms of depth of back row?
Yeah, hugely, I think. I would argue now that back rows in my time were better. No, I'm not. I'm only joking there. Listen, it's incredible. You think Dan Levy, Tommy O'Donnell. I feel for Tommy O'Donnell. Obviously, this kind of goes and swings and roundabouts, the injuries. You think Jordy Murphy playing against the All Blacks last year, he had an horrendous Achilles injury. He lost ground. Tommy O'Donnell has gained a bit of ground this year with his performances. He's been good for Munster, and obviously got a head knock last week in training and missed out in these 2 weeks. So Sean Reedy, again, he's playing very well for Ulster. So does, and of course Jack Conan. Jack Conan is someone who could, really stand out and make a big impact here, and keeping the pressure on the three ahead of him.
Yeah, so can Conan play anywhere else? Because
he can play 6 and 8.
He can play 6?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I thought Rhys Ruddock was fantastic when he came on the other day.
Yeah.
So that keeps Peter O'Mahony in his toes, who hasn't probably had his best start to the season.
There's always a hangover,
which is understandable, the Lions situation, but I thought he was good on Saturday now, Peter O'Mahony. Stander was good, Sean O'Brien was good. They worked well together, our perceived strongest three at the moment.
I remember Rhys Ruddock telling us that his dad told him one time, you need to be able to play 7, and he was like, well, you shut up, Dad. What do you know about this? And then he made his debut for Ireland playing 7 against Australia.
Yeah, I was on that tour.
And scored a try. And he was like, turns out you do know something, Dad. But the point about that is that he actually can then play 6, 7,
and the
8.
thing with Rhys is he's only got, since that time, and that was 2008, long time ago. 2000, no, it wasn't 2008. 2010, was it? Sometime around then. Anyway,
my math's not so good. I can't remember last week.
He's only got 16 or 17 caps since then.
He's only 27.
He's been unlucky, yeah. He's been unlucky. It was 2010, yeah.
I know he looks about 40, but...
he was 20. But he's a great player. I think he's been unlucky with some injuries. But games, I think, back to some of the big games he played in, He's been a standout. He's never let the team down, and
this is his peak now, right?
Yeah, he's a chance now to really get in the mix here.
His one difficulty might be that he could kind of play anywhere in that.
That's it, the flexibility again in the back row.
But at least it gets you into the matchday squad, right?
Going back to your question, the depth there in the back row is phenomenal, and they're all great athletic players as well, good footballers. We
tend to take these games for granted, but actually if you think back to the World Cup in the game against Argentina, where there's that injury crisis the week before and 5 of the starting team are out through injury and suspension, like, you wouldn't be terribly surprised if 5 of that team are starting a World Cup quarter-final against South Africa in 2 years' time.
Yeah, you think Jack McGrath, James Ryan, Ruddock, Jack Conan, McCluskey, Farrell, some of these guys come into them. Adam Byrne, Darren Sweetenham.
Like, it's not a disaster anymore if we do have that type of injury crisis. That's why these games are
well,
actually
you would
important.
hope, you would hope, Ger. I think ultimately when you come down to those crunch deciders, you want a bit of experience behind you, and this is about building experience for the next couple of seasons. Stockdale was incredible last week, so you think he's only going to get better with the experience of being involved. What Carberry's elevation has been just phenomenal. So you think in 2 years' time these guys will have experienced the pressure. Six Nations is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Being in those tight environments.
Part of me thinks that maybe the thing to do in this Six Nations is not go hell for leather and say, I realise that the IRFU would have conniptions, particularly after they desperately want to hammer Scotland and Wales now, obviously. But actually picking teams like this, obviously a little bit from last week and a little bit from this week, but more this week than last week.
And your point is valid. But I don't think it'll happen. No. But you think of someone like Murray and Sexton, how are we going to manage them up to the World Cup? How vital are they? They're vital.
I'd give Sexton another 6 months off next year.
Yeah, I kind of pick a period where you can. Now, you probably have to tie him down to get him to take some time off, because he's just so determined to keep playing and to affect every match that he plays, and he's incredible. Conor Murray the same. Someone like Tyke Furlong, how do you bring him to a World Cup now in 2 years in good shape? Yeah.
Like Cian Healy, there was like significant concerns about his career this time last year, and here he is playing the form of his life.
Yeah,
like,
he's
definitely
been fantastic, absolutely
send him off
fantastic.
on a round the world trip for 6 months and go.
It won't happen, that situation. But I think, and that is the great beauty, going back to the debate of the Irish guys staying at home. Your time will be managed well here, and I think Joe. Like it or not, sometimes the fans, maybe around the Interpros, we give out that they're all not playing, but their time is managed pretty well here. And if there is a slight niggle going into one of the Pro 14 games, the player gets the weekend off.
Yeah.
And then a younger guy comes in who's actually adding a lot of value to the team as well. So I think it works well, and that's probably the key. Get as many of these guys fit and standing, and get a strong. When he names 30 or 32 players in 2 years to go to Japan, that we see a lot of depth there,
and a lot of disappointed people probably as well. Okay, a couple of quick comments to wrap this up. Derek Higgins says it's like the Eurovision Song Contest. You'll never know your friends. He said we do know. We know exactly who voted for us.
We know him now. We know him very well.
Yeah, it's not the Welsh and it's not the Scots. Fergal Fernie, which I presume is Fergal Kearney, says, how could Wales and Scotland be so short-sighted? A World Cup in Ireland might even get some Scottish fans going. Would that be a turn-up for the books? The Scots travel in numbers. Like, you'll meet them, and the Scots fans get on quite well with the Irish rugby fans. It's just they're a lick of doos and our lick of doos.
Yeah.
Don't like the look of each other. And John Collins says, I'm delighted I can watch this on YouTube now. Thanks very much for that, John. And you can leave your comment on YouTube as well, and we'll try and bring you whatever ones will get past the censors. Alan, thanks very much for that.
Pleasure, Joe.
Now we're going to move on to the football. Brian Kerr was on Off the Ball last night talking to us about the fallout from Denmark's 5-1 win at the Aviva, and he says that he feels like stuff around the Irish team is being left a chance, which isn't giving us a chance to win games like the Denmark one.
Why did we go that road last night, and why did I say we couldn't leave it a chance? Because I think too many times in the group it's been left a chance with the late selections, the late information been passed on to the players, which obviously affects what happens with the set pieces, which affects who knows who's marking and what their individual responsibilities are at every throw-in, every corner kick, every free kick. As you know, Kevin, everybody should know those things in advance of the match. When you can't give all that information, if the announcement of the team is left as late as it appears to be from what we gather. And that's what I mean about not leaving to chance. If you're changing the system from a system of 4-5-1, which worked on Saturday, to a system that you were going to last night, which was back into a diamond again, with different personnel than played the diamond the last time, because Hendricks wasn't involved the last time out. If the personnel are different and you're going to change it, but then there's going to be work on the training ground. There was only one day to do the work on the training ground. That was Monday, right? Because Sunday was a travel and recovery day. The match was Tuesday. So there was one day. Gary said you don't have enough time. Well, you do have time, but it's only one day, and the session needs to be very specific. The session needs to be prioritised on what's the big priority in the match.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest priority is if you're changing the shape of the team and the responsibilities of the players in the midfield area and the front area, that's the work that needs to be done, followed up by some specific set piece work.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be one of the things people were talking about in the aftermath of the game, and that, I think, is the criticism that is stinging Martin O'Neill, and that's why that stuff is in all of the papers today, that he's pissed off the criticism. But that's what comes with being the manager of the national football team.
Yeah.
Like, Brian Kerr was clearly pissed off the criticism that came his way.
Clearly, I think he must be very annoyed with how people have pointed out how simple it is for a team to break Ireland down. Even when Brian mentioned set pieces there, it's as simple for Denmark to take a corner short and then decide when the ball will enter the box, because Martin O'Neill's defence of corners, if what we're to believe what people say from his time under O'Neill, is just put a big man in the centre of the box and hope to clear it. Then again, there's an argument to be made that international football needs to be kept simple, because you've only got the players for days at a time and stuff. I don't buy that argument personally.
Just to tease that out and why that argument works, like if you've just taken over an international team, you pick your best players and your best positions and you go, okay, I trust you. But when you're into year 4 of the cycle, at that point, you've had the opportunity in a load of training sessions over a long period of time. Like, Kieran Clark's been in the squad for ages. Shane Duffy was in the squad for the Euros and has like now had 2 years of learning when there's a short corner, this is what we do and this is what our strategy is. Yeah, for sure. Like, I wonder what does Shane Duffy actually think. I presume Chris Hughton is a man who, kind of like Sean Dyche, is fairly big on the minutiae, particularly when it comes to set pieces, considering that's vital to surviving in the Premier League. I wonder what he thinks of this kind of supposed non-event that is set piece training under Martin O'Neill. Yeah, let's move on. Tonight, the 1990s greatest sporting moment is the subject of the TV show. There was one for the 80s. I actually didn't see it. I presume it was Euro 88 one for the 80s, was it? I think so. The 90s one is tonight, and there's a long list of 20. In the middle of that long list, number 14 is this one. It's Michelle Smith in the pool in Atlanta in 1996. Now, I just want to read this out for you. So, Smith's 3 gold medals and a bronze in the pool stunned the world. Full stop. A shadow was cast 2 years later, however, over the achievement when she was banned for 4 years for adulterating a urine sample. In my eyes, maybe the best thing to do here would have been to put the fact that she was banned for 4 years on the list as one of the greatest sporting moments, because ultimately, Michelle Smith being banned for 4 years kind of woke the general public up to the notion that Irish people aren't above doing what other nations do, and we can't just point at the Chinese athletes who devastated Sonia O'Sullivan's career and go, well, that would never happen to us. I think it was kind of one of those moments where the country woke up to a load of stuff. Just want to also point out, I was doing a bit of reading about this morning. This is from the Irish Times in 1998, and this is about Eric de Bruyne. If you didn't know this, if you just kind of read the Michelle Smith story, as Michelle Smith, not great in the pool in Barcelona in 92, and then is amazing in 1996 because she revolutionises her training methods. She revolutionised her training methods under the watchful gaze of her husband, who became her coach. Her husband was Eric de Bruyne, who also ended up being banned for a drugs offence. His case was neither as marginal nor as uncomplicated as has generally been stated in the Irish media. His sample was discovered to contain not just an unusually high and illegal level of testosterone, but also an unusually high level of the pregnancy hormone, human chorionic gonadotropin, which helpfully includes the word gonad to give you a little giggle of Thursday morning here. De Bruyne has always disputed the outcome of these further tests, arguing to this paper, amongst others, that the stanozolol, which had actually been found in somebody else's sample, and the Germans were out to get him because he was Dutch, and the Germans obviously hate the Dutch for whatever unknown reason that would force somebody to tamper with a sample. That stanozolol actually wasn't allowed to be mentioned in the case by the IAAF. They referred to it as a mystery third substance. The pregnancy hormone, what it actually does is it stimulates the testes, because if you've got massive amounts of testosterone in your body, your balls stop working. They kind of decide, well, we don't really need to pump any more testosterone out into you, so you take this other thing to make sure that, you know, they don't shrivel up and stop being of any use. So anyway, if you want to vote for Michelle Smith tonight as one of the great Irish sporting moments of the 1990s, go ahead.
Shall we take a look at some of the UK papers?
Yeah, let's go for it.
We'll stick with some pharmaceutical matters because we'll start with The Guardian and show you the back page or the front page of the sports section in The Guardian. Wiggins lets rip at UCAD witch hunt, which is something that's a theme amongst some of the other papers in the UK. UK anti-doping closes investigation into package. Olympic legend says he has suffered a living hell. We'll discuss that in a moment.
Yeah, so the Telegraph, their front page also leading with, is he Sir Bradley Wiggins?
Yes.
Okay, so My Living Hell is what they have on their front page. Wiggins claims drugs probe was a witch hunt, but MPs respond. Our MP says something still, God, I'm going blind, I'm getting old, I can't believe it. It says cloud still hangs over a second. But when you open it up, they put the word vindication in inverted commas, so at least the Telegraph and the sub-editors are going, well, Bradley, we think this still stinks.
Let's show you the front page of the London Times this morning. Rugby Chiefs World Cup humiliation. France voted 2023 hosts after £350 million pledge. The other two stories there on the back of the Ireland edition, Klopp taking the hospital. Actually, no, it's Wiggins on the back page there as well, with Farrell back to face the Wallabies. He was playing Waterboy for England against Argentina on Saturday.
And Andy Farrell was.
Owen
Farrell, yeah. Andy, of course, part of the Irish coaching team, and nothing got to do with the English coaching team anymore. I thought you meant Bradley Wiggins was, that's why.
Well, that would really have been
what?
something. Well, speaking of overqualified people in positions, like Chris Sutton is obviously not Chris Sutton. This is incredible, the amount of people that we're actually getting wrong. Shane Sutton, genie.
This is where we all get sued, is it?
Yeah, well, there's nothing suable here. I'm just talking about overqualified people. Shane Sutton being the courier, of course, in this Bradley Wiggins case. That was a segue there that really went completely the wrong way. Imagine Chris Sutton flying over for UK cycling to get something to the Criterium de Dauphiné. But yeah, that's a segue I want to bring up this Bradley Wiggins story with, because we've got a number of quotes here, and it's very interesting how you read them and what you feel the implications of yesterday's, well, we can't prove anything verdict is. And essentially what it is that UK anti-doping has said that they can't decipher what was in the jiffy bag. And Bradley Wiggins has taken this as, the time to come out and call it all a witch hunt, and thereby kind of say this is some sort of vindication.
Yeah. So they specifically said that they can't verify that it was Flumicil in the jiffy bag.
Precisely.
Flumicil would have been a substance which they weren't supposed to be using, and so therefore there would have been automatically a drugs ban following that on. And Wiggins goes, well, you can't prove that it is and you can't prove that it isn't, but this isn't a court of law. This isn't like beyond all reasonable doubt. And UK anti-doping have clearly just got no balls in this instance, and they've decided that they're going to close the matter, and if new evidence comes to light, then they'll reinvestigate. But it does seem to me like what we've long thought is that all of the anti-doping agencies around the world are really a fig leaf for the governing bodies to pretend that they give a shit about doping in sport when they don't, because sponsors don't want to know about it, TV companies don't want to know about it, and it turns out most fans don't really care about doping in sport. Most fans want to watch sport and go, these are the fastest, they can jump the highest, they can kick the hardest, they can pass the best, or they can hit the golf ball the furthest. And actually, you know what, if they're all on dope, I just want to sit on my couch and drink beer and gamble and watch this and think, yeah, this is great. It gets me away from my life for a few minutes.
Well, Damien Collins is keeping the flame lit. He says it's not an exoneration of anyone and maintains that a cloud now hangs over one of our greatest Olympians. He's an MP that we've had on the show previously. And if you think that it's going to be a long time before anything new comes to light, he does say that the publishing of the Select Committee report that got delayed, I think as a result of the election earlier in the year, it's due before Christmas. So we're going to have that in the next month or so. I might just read out the Bradley Wiggins statement.
Yeah,
because it's just quite interesting. He says, being accused of any doping indiscretion is the worst possible thing for any professional sports person, especially when it is without any solid factual basis, and you know the allegation to be categorically untrue. I have kept my silence throughout this period to allow UCAD to conduct its investigation in the most professional way possible so as to not undermine it. This period of time has been a living hell for me and my family, full of innuendo and speculation. At times it felt nothing less than a malicious witch hunt. The interesting thing here is that nobody's proved that it's not Flumicil, as you mentioned, in the jiffy bag. It seemed to me like it was a Flumicil versus triamcinolone debate here, because Nicole Sapstead says that UK Cycling purchased copious amounts of triamcinolone previously. Of course, they had testosterone patches purchased accidentally. It was a separate story. But we are getting to the point here where you put 2 and 2 together and you might assume that it was triamcinolone alone in the jiffy bag. There is nothing of that sort of ilk to say that there was Flumicil in the jiffy bag. Nobody has come out from UK anti-doping to say, oh, they purchased copious amounts of Flumicil. Add that with Shane Sutton being the high-profile courier of this this goods, let's call it. Then you start to say something important is in the jiffy bag. If it was merely Flumicil, then why the hell is Shane Sutton carrying it, who's got nothing to do with, the Team Sky, who obviously rode the Dauphiné that time? Like, that's why the question marks are there, and that is why Wiggins isn't vindicated, because, like, we haven't proved one way or the other, but we certainly haven't leaned anywhere close to it being Flumicil.
Yeah, just remember that Bradley Wiggins was part of British cycling, which won all the gold medals at the London 2012 Olympics. He's also part of Team Sky, which has been one of the most dominant forces ever in the history of cycling. And so if he is in any way tarnished by what goes on, then great institutions of British sport are also tarnished. So is it really in UK anti-doping's interest to expose those organisations as somehow being involved in something dodgy? Not really, when all the money for the UK cycling comes from the British government taxpayer through the lottery and their funding for sport, which is where the funding for the UK anti-doping comes from. So it's not that much of a leap to think that maybe if there's a bit of a rug and stuff can be swept under it and everybody goes home and forgets about this, then ultimately that's going to be the right outcome for Great Britain and great British sport.
Well, Wiggins says here his life's been made a living hell. He needs to go to Dr. Richard Freeman and blame him for making his life a living hell, because if Dr. Richard Freeman hadn't got his laptop stolen in one of the safest countries in Europe, or had he not come down with that awful illness today, he was due to appear before the select committee, this thing would have been over and done with a lot earlier, you'd suspect. So Richard Freeman, just the unfortunate nature that he's been unable to give his highly qualified evidence, I'm sure he's been itching to get out there and speak, but stricken down and getting stuff stolen from you was just an unfortunate end goal there.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't pass the sting test as well. Do we have any more newspapers to go to?
Yeah, we may as well talk about some of the international rules quotes. But before all that, we'll actually just give you just the final flavour, I guess, of the UK back pages. The Sun, I think, is next up. Indeed it is. 5-star Halls. It's a beach, not Russia for you, which is in relation to Garrett's World Cup shock. Welbeck, Walcott, Smalling, Sturridge and Wilshere are all not going to Russia, according to Garrett Southgate in The Sun.
Oh yeah, okay. Now I get it. I thought maybe, is he going to put the English football team up at a beach resort in Russia, and that's where they're going to train? It's actually...
I don't think there are any sandy beaches in Murmansk, and I don't think it's sunny there any time of the year, so no.
Somewhere in the Black Sea?
Potentially, yeah. I think there is... What's the name of that town down there? There is like 2 locations down suspiciously south. It is almost as if they're like, let's give the boys here a proper summer, let's give the footballers a proper summer.
Yeah, there's somebody goes on holidays in Crime and Punishment, somewhere nice, I think. Anyway, enough. We have one last one for you, do we? We got the Mirror and the Star. Yeah, so I feel like a fool. Jose anger at Jones KO. United boss, it was naive to let defender play for England while rivals kept their stars at home. Jose Mourinho hates international football and he doesn't care. Who knows it? Jurgen in hospital after Africa trip, so he came down with a little bit of something, but it turns out they released him pretty quickly. And then that is the newspapers there for you.
Yeah, one of the stories doing the rounds today, it's in all of the Irish titles really, is just regarding Michael Murphy being described as heroic. Because I didn't know this until this morning, but Michael Murphy was still carrying a heavy dose of the old man flu or the illness or whatever he had into last Sunday's test, in which he played really well. Because I was under the impression that the 2 guys who had it were the 2 that were missing, Enda Smith and the name escapes me of the second player who was missing last week, despite the fact that I got up early to watch it.
They had the shits.
Yeah.
The whole squad had it. Or 9 of them had it.
Yes, but I thought it had cleared all by Sunday, and the only 2 who had it were the 2 that were missing. But no, Michael Murphy played on one wing, I think was the phrase used today, which was quite impressive considering he scored like 20 points.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He was flying on one wing as opposed to playing on one wing, because that would have been like his left wing back or right. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. So obviously revenge is the mission. Not revenge, well, just kind of usurping the 10-point lead that Australia have built up on Saturday morning is the end goal for this Irish team. Potentially, not running away from the Australian players when they go to clamp them to the ground is one way of doing it.
That's the front cover of the official programme from the 2015 game. It's Bernard Brogan and according to Niall Brady in our comments doc, says, I didn't know Kevin Kilbane was in the 2015 Australia Rules international squad. Does he look a bit like a killer?
Just the teeth. The sort of the eyebrows as well.
Take the jaw off there and the hair maybe.
Yeah.
That's pre-killer kind of discovering his hipster haircut. Yeah.
My favourite thing
and back when the Dubs played international rules football.
My favourite moment from the international rules so far was at half-time in last week's match. They were analysing the first half on TV, and Michael Lester was saying to the boys, I think it was Marty Clark and Kieran Whelan, he was like, they've got round balls in every corner of the planet. They've got it in Asia, they've got it in Europe, they've got it in Australia. Like, what is the Australians' problem? And like it was like this sort of inquest into the fact that they've like seen this orb and they don't know what to do with it. Australia, of course, proceeds to absolutely destroy Ireland in the kicking stakes. Well, that's a bit strong. They certainly held their own in the kicking stakes.
Were all the lads down there?
No, they were doing it from studio back in Montrose,
right,
I think.
That's grim enough. Get up early at like 3 o'clock, go in, get your makeup done, sit there and go, oh God, I have to watch this crap. But at least we're getting paid for it.
Yeah, well, I watched it, without getting paid for it. So
at home.
At home, yeah.
Well, technically, when you're watching sport, you're getting paid for it because that's your job.
I guess so. Look, the research has obviously contributed to a massively enlightening discussion this morning. So there we go.
All right, let's move on. Pádraig Mahony and Anthony Nash joined us in studio early this week ahead of the AIB Munster GAA Senior and Intermediate Hurling Club Finals on Sunday, November the 19th. The full interview is about half an hour long. You can watch the whole thing on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/offtheball, and subscribe and like all those videos so that you get notifications anytime that we're doing anything. And likewise, do the same on Facebook and Twitter. Let the Twitter notifications know whenever we go live, and you'll automatically get a notification that the show is live on Periscope. Anyway, the full interview, as I said, is half an hour and you can watch the whole thing there. But we talked about some good stuff, including a brilliant save that Anthony Nash made against Pádraig Mahony. All right, you're very welcome along. We're talking hurling, and I'm delighted to say we've got two of the stars of the summer with us, Pádraig Mahony and Anthony Nash. I'm going to show you this because it's a bit of action involving both of you. It's from the All-Ireland semi-final, and what's about to happen here, Pádraig?
This fella makes a good save.
That's not a good save. It's a great save.
Yeah. So I didn't realise I was that far out from the goal actually.
Thanks.
Nah, it wasn't. In fairness, it was a super save.
Yeah. And, so you do a better job of talking through your heroic save there, Anthony.
Jeez, I don't.
I actually thought, like, when I hit it, I was really going to go away celebrating, thinking that it was buried, like, so there was a good save there.
Yeah, so you come straight off the hurl and you're like, happy days, I just got a great goal.
Couldn't have striking any better. Could you see behind Mark Ellis?
No, you used Ellis,
yeah. A little bit blindside. That's
I didn't see. Like. That was it. Like when Mark went to block it, that was the.
Yeah, you couldn't really see it there. In fairness, no, jeez.
So you saw it late.
Yeah, or look again. If good forward, I suppose when they're coming in, if they can use a defender, it's going to hinder the chances of a goalkeeper. Any goalkeeper said there's nothing going through your head or anything like that. It's not that you're. You don't know what you're thinking about or anything like that. It's just you just throw the hurling. Fortunately enough, I got around it. But I think if you asked him what happened after that, I think he'd tell you that Waterford won, so it didn't really matter, unfortunately.
How much of using the bodies is that something you're conscious of when you are even that far out of goals?
To be honest with you, I don't get in that close to goal that often, so
any trick in the book?
It's kind of unknown territory for me, nearly going in there. But I actually, when I did get the ball, I seen Ellis coming towards me, so I was like, right, I can kind of use him as a shield, like, for,
I suppose in the middle of the championship you're not really kind of thinking too that quick and just doing like it's just the fact that Mark put himself in that position. I looked at him, Pádraig is one of the best strikers of all in the country, like, so like when you see a fella bearing down and go like that, it's just reaction.
So he's going for goal though, even though you can't see it, like you get the sense that like,
you don't really, like, it's just, honest to God, it's just on the moment anything can happen, like it was, I don't know, just kind of looking at it again, I haven't really seen it, like, it was just that you're always ready for a shot just in case, but where he's going or anything like that you can't read, because look, into county level forwards can break their wrists, change body, change the way the ball moves or something like that, so you're just hoping really more than anything that it hits off something, blanks you.
That's a pretty edgy existence then. You're like constantly on edge waiting for somebody to have a shot.
Yeah, like, look, I was even speaking to people earlier there about it, like I was saying that, like, physically I'm not drained coming out of a game, but emotionally you are as a goalkeeper, like, because you're just constantly on, like, look, I suppose the old thing of you drop a ball in goals is a goal, you drop a ball in midfield, you might turn around and pick it up and clear it again or do whatever, like, so you're kind of just constantly kind of concentrating, switched on, and just one strike of a ball and it's into you, even from any defence, with the way the ball travels nowadays, so it's just more mentally more than anything, you're kind of on edge, and you're kind of tired.
How do you actually prepare for that though? Like,
I don't know, it's just experience really more than anything, just playing games, like, I suppose you can't do everything in training. Like, you know, it's just from playing games, gaining experience. Like, and I suppose the fact that I'm the wrong side of 30 now, in a way, for a goalkeeper helps, because kind of get more calm, kind of just, you know, just understanding the game a little bit more. And the fact that I've played a number of games for Cork now at the moment, it's just, you're a little bit more, what would I say, easy going into games, if you know what I mean. But,
like looser.
Yeah, like, I suppose when I first came onto the scene, I suppose I was trying to get myself a little bit worked up, pumped up going into a game. And like Patrick Horgan used to always slag me and go, what are you getting worked up for? Do you know what I mean? You're a goalkeeper. Like, so I actually try and go in calmer into games now, and just kind of just, you're trying to see what's going on. Like, for a lot of the time when the ball's up the other side of the field, you're trying to, you know, just encourage your defenders. And by doing that, you're actually keeping yourself in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, even though the players probably give out that I talk too much in the field, it's more for myself as well to keep kind of switched on, you know?
Well, yeah, because that makes sense now the way you're talking about it. If you're very worked up and somebody is bearing down on goal, like, you're thinking, as opposed to, look, where's the ball, what's the movement?
Yeah, look, the thing is, for a goalkeeper, most of the time you have to be actually just, you might have to control the ball. Okay, you might have to catch a ball, and if you're pumped up and jumping around the place or kind of jittery, it's not going to help your game, like, you know. But it's just from being involved with Ger Cunningham, you know, for years, Donald Cusack, Martin Coleman, the likes of those fellas, that I would have learned all those kind of things, that look, try and just, you know, be steady, be calm. And my goalkeeping coach over the last year, we would have worked on different things, but it's just trying to do the right things at the right time, and if you're not mentally there, then you're not going to do it, like, you know.
The extra adrenaline is no good either when you're like trying to pinpoint accurate, pick out somebody from 40 yards as opposed to
probably be the same freeze, like, you know, if your head isn't in it, like, you know, you really have to kind of just be like, your head can get in the way sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if you're really trying to overthink things, so it's just being calm, just clear head, and being able to do things, you know, it's definitely a benefit having a clear head at times, you know.
Well, talk to us about the freeze and the adrenaline then. At what point do you have to calm yourself down and try and not be in Croke Park or Semple Stadium and just be in the back garden or whatever it is that you do to get into the moment?
Yeah, I suppose the minute the whistle is blown for a free, straight away my process of putting that ball over the bar, obviously main objective starts, and so just relaxing, a couple of deep breaths, and then I'd start my visualisation straight away. So just for every free I try to do the same routine. The minute I suppose I get that ball in my hand, I just, you know, visualise it's over the bar, because I think then once you're visualising it's over the bar, how can you kind of, you know, be nervous, or how can you be worried about the outcome when it's over the bar? And I think that's the main process for myself. And then obviously just making sure my alignment is right, and I'd always try and have my 2 feet like in line with the left hand post, and then it's just about making sure to lift and then following through on the strike. And as you said, you know, I'd practice 2 or 3 times a week, try and just get out, maybe hit 30-40 frees, whether it's up in Ballygunner or before training in Welsh Park with Waterford, and then just sticking to the process for every single free. And I think if you do miss a free, you know, if your mindset is the same going into the next free, then, you know, you're not worried about the previous free, you're just thinking about this, putting this one over the bar, and just trusting then your ability.
Sure. Take us back to the All-Ireland. There was a bit of a debate about whether or not Derek was going to stay on. Obviously he's announced recently that he is going to stay on, and from the outside it seems like that's very important, that you guys are all collectively, you've been very unified in the face of some stern criticism, some of it from within the county over the last couple of years, and you've come through that. And frequently it's those teams who've been through that actually benefit the most from having a tough time.
Yeah, look, I suppose
maybe it doesn't feel like that when you're in the middle of it.
That's the thing, like, I think, you know, everyone's obviously entitled to their opinion, but as a group of players, Anthony will tell you the same about Cork, you're kind of locked away in a bubble really, and you're just kind of, you're living out of each other's pockets for 8-9 months of the year, and you're not listening to what's going on the outside. And obviously over the last couple of months then there was question marks whether Derek was going to stay on or not, and obviously look, we're delighted that he's there for another year, and, you know, he's put a massive amount of work and time and effort into it over the last number of years, so it'd be a shame to see that go to waste. And so look, we're obviously looking forward now to 2018 and back with the same management team again, and hopefully we can drive on a bit further.
It can't be that easy though to tune out all the noise of people complaining about the style of play. Like, that must be the one thing that actually does filter through, when no matter, like, you're buying a loaf of bread and they're like, jeez, don't just poke it in long.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's, you know, people are talking about it for so long now, what, 3 or 4 years, that we don't really care anymore because it's gone so far, you know, overboard. And I think a couple of players would have saying it throughout the year, like, you know, we're the fellas who are going training 5 or 6 nights a week in the gym, you know, running hills, whatever's asked of us, we're the fellas doing it. And people probably don't see that from the outside, you know, what goes into actually getting to a Sunday of a Munster Championship game, or whether it's an All-Ireland quarter-final, semi-final or final, there's huge work goes into it, and you have to just trust yourself that you're doing the right thing and why you're doing it, and that's the way we are in Waterford.
Yeah, I wonder what you made of that story. I'm going to obviously ask you about your own season, but like as an outsider from outside Waterford, looking at the criticism that this Waterford team were getting, considering the journey that team has been on, and particularly because Cork hurling has got this in the last decade and a half where you just completely ripped up the template, did something new, everybody thought this is ridiculous. Oh look, we just won a couple of All-Irelands. What a great idea that was.
Look, I think Paddy touched on it there. Like, look, support is massive. It's great in Cork and everything like that, but and people are entitled to their opinion, but like, when it's good, you shouldn't listen to it, and when it's bad, you shouldn't listen to it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because otherwise, like, you're either one side of it or the other. Like, and if you can kind of just stay, middle ground or something like that. Look, the good thing about GA in Ireland, it kind of unites communities and people get to speak about it, and that means there's hundreds and thousands of opinions. I'm sure part of the same. Like, once you win, it doesn't matter. I couldn't care if we played 15 fellas behind the ball, if it meant us winning in All-Ireland, or if it meant we played 15 up the field. Do you know what I mean? I don't think the Waterford players would even think that. I think you mentioned the journey there. Dan Shannon actually spoke to us in the dressing room after the Ireland semi-final this year and mentioned the journey that they were on, and like, Waterford have been, unbelievable since Dan's era and stuff like that, and like, making an All-Ireland final this year, like, and look, I hope they don't go a step further next year, obviously, like, but like, you can see from the outside the kind of the community that they have and the unity in the panel and stuff, and what Derek has brought to it. But I'm sure, and like Paul touched on it there, look, once they go in training, it doesn't matter what way they play hurling, like, it's still hurling, they still pass the ball, they still score goals, they scored plenty of scores this year. So look, maybe some of it people might feel that it's just, I don't think it is. I think, and they've got some unbelievable hurlers. Unfortunately, we were the wrong side of a Waterford, beating on many an occasion for the last few years, but every time we go against them, I think it's a good game of hurling. Like, I think it's a thing like that. You can talk sweepers this, sweepers that. They made another in a final and run lucky not to win it. So I don't think any of the players would care.
What about your own season?
Very similar. Like, I think look, winning Munster is great, don't get me wrong, and where we were in 16 to win Munster, I suppose a lot of people from the outside wouldn't have given us a hope. I spoke last year and just before we led up to the Wexford game, and obviously I was wrong by saying it, but I still felt that 16 had a chance of doing something special, and Wexford put in a good performance and beat us, and look, deservedly so. But I think that from the outside, if you looked in, you said, Jesus, Cork came from nowhere. I don't think we came from nowhere. I think Munster is so competitive that any team can win it. But I think, like Paul just touched on there a second ago, yes, we have a Munster title, but when you get to an Ireland semi-final, you want to get there. You want to get to the final. You want to play in the final. So a little bit of bitterness at the end of the year. You'd love to have gotten to the final, whether we'd have won it or not. You know what I mean? Like, it's Galway were awesome all year, in fairness to them, but you still would have liked to have partaken in the final. So a little bit of bad taste at the end of it. Munster was great. We had consistent league campaign as well, which was good. But look,
the early part of the league campaign, there was a couple of defeats. I remember looking at Kieran Kingston doing one of the post-match interviews, going, Jesus, the team, like, they were shook tonight, and he just looks like he doesn't really know exactly why that happened. And at that point, it would have been easy to write you guys off. I'd say everybody did write you off.
Oh, they did. Sure, like, we were outsiders. In Munster, we were the least favourite, or the lowest favourite, whatever, to win Munster and anything like that. But like, look, there are surprises every year, I suppose. But the one thing we tried to work on the league this year was just getting consistent performances, and we lost a couple of games, but we played well in patches in them, and that's what we were trying to work on.
Yeah.
So then when we actually came into the championship, we were confident with the performances we put in, and a little bit of form we had going into the championship then as well. So, and I felt we carried that through a little bit.
It's funny to me to listen that you did think last year there was stuff there that you could build on, when everybody outside would have said, this is a low point.
But unfortunately, I haven't a clue what's going on in the Waterford setup. I don't know what's going on in Kilkenny or Tipperary. I know what's going on in Cork. I know what's going on the inside, and unfortunately when you're not involved in something, like, I can't comment on the Cork footballers because I don't know what they're doing. When you're inside in something, you have a feeling, and like, I went down to Park Ring, not this year but previous year, to see the Cork ones lose to Limerick. My cousin was playing for Limerick, so I kind of had I had an interest in kind of both sides, but I saw 5 or 6 players in that 21 team that lost that were going to be big difference. Mark Coleman was one, Shane Kingston,
not bad,
Luke Meade, Dara Fitzgibbon, Pat Collins, the goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? You had 5 or 6 lads coming through that were going to be on our panel the following year and broke into the team. So like, there was positivities there in 16 with that. So we knew come 17 we were going to have a stronger panel, and hopefully, look, like every other team that's gone out there now, we're all in bottom, trying to build our way up to win All Ireland again, and hopefully those lads will come back even stronger and fitter.
Were you surprised that Kieran didn't decide to stay on when it felt like this was a year of huge progress?
It's gone full time. I think it's gone full time. I think the whole GA is nearly full time at this stage. Like, as players, Paul mentioned there a second ago, you're out 5 or 6 nights a week as a player.
Yeah.
A manager isn't, even though he's not on the pitch doing running or gym work himself or something like that, he's on the phone constantly. Kieran is I know put in more than enough time. He's self-employed. His work was suffering a little bit because of it, and made a decision, I'm surely based on his family's interest and stuff as well. I was disappointed, of course, initially, but the one positive that came out of it is that John was there last year, John Myler, and he's going to bring continuity to what we've had. John's a very positive guy. Look, his son David, has had a fantastic career, and John has obviously been one of the driving forces there. So he's understanding the knowledge of professional soccer. He's going to hopefully bring, his idea of professionalism to our thing, and just hopefully push on. And the fact that he was there last year and had the 21s who speak very highly of him as well, we're just going to have to try and push on. But look, I'd be friends with Kieran as well. I would have got a good relationship with Kieran over the years, so it's disappointing to see him leaving, of course, but look, as I said, we've a positive step forward with John as well.
Yeah, we've got a clip to show you here. You guys are out against the Piercing at the weekend, having been run pretty close by both 6 Mile Bridge and Thurles Sarsfields in the last 2 rounds. No doubt it's going to be pretty close against the Piercing. Shane Dowling is out for that game. Have a look at this.
So things are going very well for the club at the moment. The Piercing through to the Munster Club hurling final. You're going to take on Ballygunner on Sunday week. You're injured at the moment. What's the issue?
Yeah, a bit more than I expected, unfortunately. I came off injured in the county final. I wasn't sure what it was. Went for an MRI scan and showed up to the tore cartilage. No problem with that. Down to Waterford to get an operation. 10-minute job. Be out for 3 weeks. Be back for Munster final. If that would provide me beat Black Rock, I had to hope that we would, and we did. But when he went in to do the operation, he found a fracture in my knee. There's a big hole inside my knee as well, so he had to do a job on that, which is after setting me back until the new year. I'll be 6 weeks in crutches, another month of that to go. It is a holy disaster, and I won't be running until the new year. As it turns out, the man in my operation was Tyga Sullivan. His 4 sons are involved with Ballygunner, so whether he was looking further down the road or what, I don't know. Whether there was a hole in my knee or not, I don't know. No, I actually do know, because he actually showed me the proof afterwards, just in case he thought that he was kidding me. But it's just funny how it turned out. We were having staggered before I went in for the operation about the hurling or whatever, because we knew we had a chance of getting there. He knew they had a chance of getting there. As it turned out, that's the case now. So I'm going to blame him one way or the other anyway.
Yeah, so all we're hearing is that you were out for 3 weeks, you'd be back for the final. A Ballygunner man ripped open your knee, told you there was a giant hole in it. Now you're not going to play again until probably February or March.
Correct, yes.
Obviously Shane Downing's a big loss for the Piercing.
Yeah, he's a top class player. He's proven at intercounty and club. He's done a lot obviously from the Piercing. In the last 3 times they got to the Munster title, he was a crucial player, so he's going to be a loss. Obviously we were missing Brian O'Sullivan ourselves, who was after damaging his shoulder, so I think it kind of balances out nearly. When we were only saying earlier that every game kind of it balances out going into it, and the
conditions haven't been great in these games. There's still huge scores. You were talking about every hurler wants to play, and you're looking at the matches thinking, Jesus, imagine this was high summer, what this game could look like.
Yeah, they're great games to be a part of. I suppose the atmosphere and the buzz down in Welsh Park over the last couple of weeks against Thurles and against 6 Mile Bridge, it's something probably that I'd never experienced as a club player. Yeah. And it's you get it obviously when you're up in Thurles playing Munster Championship or in Croke Park, but to have that feeling with the club, it is a little bit extra special, because as I said, you're playing with lads who you've been with since you're 5 or 6 years of age, and to be on the field and sharing them moments when the final whistle goes, it's extra special. And obviously we'd be hoping for the same again this Sunday.
Yeah, this Sunday those games both take place. Sunday, November the 19th, and as I said, the full 30 minutes of that interview is available on YouTube. And for exclusive content and behind the scenes action throughout the AIB, GAA and Camogie Club Championships, follow AIB GAA on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram and on Snapchat. Kanturk against Kilmaley takes place at 2 o'clock, Kilmaley at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and then the Napiershig Ballygunner game is also on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. at Semple. So coming up tomorrow, you've got a one-on-one sit-down with one of your Arsenal heroes, the real Romford Pele.
The real Romford Pele, as opposed to the kind of fictitious one. He obviously sat down with Joe during the week, but he is also doing the TV gig, and it's going to be aired tomorrow. So I'm just basically bigging it up there that it's going to be a hell of a lot better. Well, maybe.
Throwing shade to Joe Malloy?
Not at all. A hell of a lot different.
Whoa.
Probably worse, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, you backed away from that pretty quick.
What do we talk about? What I think...
I love you, Ray.
Yeah, kind of. It's obviously the North London Derby.
How did you get those curls, Ray?
Yeah, the curl, like the locks obviously are less blonde. They were far more ginger and a lot shorter obviously these days.
Yeah.
But
the curls were real, they weren't permed.
No. But like you can still see he's naturally curly.
Yeah.
He just has less hair to kind of demonstrate that. But
Yeah, I wonder if you were like that, if that was your hallmark, if you just keep it going forever.
Maybe, yeah. Well, we're 48 hours out from the North London Derby. We'll be just over 24 hours out tomorrow, and we will chat a lot about that, his own kind of memories from it. I also want to ask him about the nickname, the real Romford Pele, because it seems like a fairly innocuous nickname until you sit and think about it for a while and you realise that Mark Overmars gave him the nickname. But I'm starting to think, how is Mark Overmars familiar with all the boroughs of North London and kind of the cultural...
3 days into training at Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. The cultural innuendo that comes with calling somebody the Romford Pele, because it's meant as a slag kind of and a paradox in itself.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a bit like Zinedine.
It's kind of like saying Pele was the flashiest footballer ever, and Romford is not a flashy place at all.
Oh, I didn't get any of that. I just thought that this guy's really good and he's from Romford.
Well, that's what I assumed, and I put that to Ray, and he seemed to not disagree with it. So I presume that is kind of like the end goal, and kind of the idea of being underrated, that sort of ties in with it. Like Tim Lovejoy, of course, famously on fan commentary of the 2002 FA Cup, Ray Parlour gets the ball and he's in a bit of space, and Tim Lovejoy's like, don't worry, it's only Ray Parlour. Suddenly 2 touches later, smash. Carlo Cudicini's fingertips gently massage the ball as it goes into the top corner of the goal in the Millennium Stadium, and Arsenal have won the FA Cup yet again.
What's that genre of fan porn called? What do you call that?
Fan TV?
No. You know,
Fan zone?
Where people write porn about the stuff that they like. You've just done that about Ray Parlour's goal in the FA Cup final.
I don't know. I'll find that out for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just don't Google it at work. But thanks to all you people who are still watching at work, and those of you who've made your journey with us this morning. We're glad we were there, part of your journey too. You can get us on youtube.com/offtheball, like and subscribe. You can get us on facebook.com/offtheball, like and share and whatever else it is you do. What are you laughing at?
That's just, you sound like a healer. Glad to have been part of your journey this morning.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.